Now, one of the great things that you can do for yourself as a person living in South Africa is that you need to find yourself saving, you need to find yourself investing. Saving and investing are the two main things that, as a person living in South Africa, these are the best decision that you can ever do if you are a working class or as a person that is currently working, having a job. If the budget is not allowing, you need to find ways to make sure that that budget allows you to do this, because it is very critical for you to find yourself, of course, not just only working and earning a living, spending on household expenses, but it is also important that part of the money that you receive as a salary, you save for emergencies, you also invest for the future. Because let's face it, even the retirement that we are putting towards as people who are currently working or who have jobs is no longer enough to cater for the needs that we have in the future. I mean, I know personally so many stories of people who have shared to say that they retired, but after retirement, in a couple of years after retirement, they found themselves so broke in a way that they had to also still look for something extra over and above just going to get grant from the government that is given to people over 60. Uh, it's it's so sad, man. And I think if you are still working, whether being it you are 20, you are 30, you are 40, you are 50, and you are still working, it's never too late to start doing these two things, that is saving for emergencies and investing. The best time to start is right now. Don't even try to convince yourself that you want to start it fresh next year. You need to start it as soon as possible. You need to start right now. And obviously the principle for starting all this is that before you can invest, you need to save for your emergencies, because what ends up happening is that the money that you invest, you end up using for your emergencies, and that is not how it's supposed to be. An investment, as long as something is called an investment, it's something that is for a long term. When you invest, you are investing with the mindset of long term. Long term is anything from 5 years. So when you are investing today and going to take that money next month, that is not investing, unfortunately, because investing, it's something that you do for the long term. That is why I'm saying, before you can start with your investments or with that investing thingy, whether being it into buying shares, which is something that I personally do, buying any other asset class, have this emergency saving first, that you put money aside, and for any emergencies, instead of you going to an investment, you are going to your emergency and you get the money out for doing the emergency things that comes as and when, right? But of course, before we go in deep, welcome yet to another video. My name is Pomozo Siporo, and on this one I just want to stress the importance of obviously investing and saving. If it's your first time here on the channel, welcome. I'll appreciate if you can just subscribe and join the family. If you can like the video, because all day every day you know that I'm talking about either investing, saving, or any other South Africa news affairs that have an impact into our economy. This is what I discuss on this channel. I don't discuss politics, unfortunately, but it's just economy news and also investments, right? Buying shares specifically, which is why I decided this time around to also just come and highlight or pave the way my personal opinion, which is not professional financial advice, to show you how maybe it can be done. By the way, me, I started investing without having a savings, and I know exactly what I'm talking about when I'm saying you should start by saving before you invest, right? So I'm talking, or what I'm telling you on this one, it's something that personally I've experienced, and I've seen why an emergency fund or a savings it's needed before you start your investing journey. But of course, like I said, like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and yeah, let's get right into it. So like I said, it's important for you to start right now. When it comes to investing, age, it's very very important. The earlier you start, the better, because with investing, like I said, we are talking about long term. And when you talk about long term, you are talking about compounding or compound interest. So compound interest, it is when you earn interest not just on your initial investments, but also accumulate interest from previous periods. So it's interest on top of interest. This is why I'm saying now, the sooner you start with this one, is the better. But before you can start with your investing that will accumulate you interest on top of interest, you need to have emergency fund, because like I said, the problem is that if you start investing before you have your emergency fund or your savings account, what so many people will say, you are going to end up tampering with your long-term investment. And can I tell you something? If you are investing into maybe you buy a certain company, you buy a certain ETF index in the stock market, and that index, like the S&P 500, maybe it's giving you an average of 10%. 10% of 100,000, it's obviously 10,000, right? So, and next year, the following year, if the S&P 500 still grows by 10%, which is the average growth of the S&P 500, it's going to be 10% of your 100,000 plus the 10,000 you got for interest for the previous year, which now starts accumulating. But now imagine those good returns or those good gains. Now you have an emergency, now you start going to withdraw maybe 30,000, 40,000 from that. Can you realize the amount of risk to reaching financial freedom you are putting yourself to? I mean, I personally also did it. I found myself in situations in life. I mean, in life there will be emergencies at some point. Trust me, that requires you money, that requires you to have lump sum somewhere. And if you don't have your emergency savings, you are going to, trust me, you are going to go and tap on your investments, which those ones are not for that. You are not supposed to use your investments for emergencies, which is something that I wish I could have known before I started investing. But look, over the years, I've also started my emergency fund, and I hardly touch my investment account, man. I hardly touch my portfolio, my stock market portfolio, because I have got an emergency fund on the side that should anything happen, I'm able to just go and tap that emergency fund and handle whatever emergency that I have at that point in time, which is something that obviously it was a turnaround for me, because rather than just me investing and go and tapping on my investments, which at a couple of months, if not years later, I regret why I touched those investments, because the returns on that ETF, the returns on that company that I had bought shares in, they've grown so much in a way that I start thinking that 10,000, that 50,000, that 100,000 probably which I had put onto that company right now would be valued 5 times, 3 times the initial investments or the initial money that I had put into that asset class. And this has happened to me a couple of times until I realized that, you know what, I should have started with the emergency fund before I can really start the investing thing. And right now, I'm telling you where I'm at. I have got my emergency fund, which for in case of an emergency, I always go and access that money, and I don't touch my investments, meaning that the kind of growth that I see on the assets, the shares that I buy, the stocks that I buy, being it locally and internationally, because me, I thank God we've got platforms that allows us not to buy stocks or shares here locally, but we can also buy in the US. Whatever I buy, chances are very high that even when I trim or when I sell some of my stocks, some of my investments, I am looking for more opportunities there to buy, to invest, rather than me just going, instead of me just going now to withdraw the money before I could see the massive gains onto the companies that I'm investing in, which is very, very important. So this investing and saving, it's something that it's very important, and I think all working class, all the people that have got jobs in South Africa or have got businesses in South Africa, we should all strive to have a savings, emergency fund, and investment accounts where we are personally also partaking into investing into companies, into shares. Look, I don't believe into this thing of people whereby someone will tell you, me, I can't invest for myself, I'll eat the money. I think it's just training your mindset, man. Once you train, I mean, all of us started there to say that, hey, I can't just save for myself, I can't invest for myself. But once you train your mindset, once you have your goals and you write them down, I think those goals, if they are so big enough, they will influence or have an impact for you and teach you to be disciplined to do some of these things yourself. It's important, guys. But anyways, this video, I just thought of coming and telling you or share with you this is very important. I think everyone, in my personal opinion, should be having a savings or an emergency fund and an investment account where you are personally active, and investing for the future yourself. I think it's very important. Financial literacy, it's something that everyone should end up accumulating, or you should acquire the skill, right? That will propel you to your financial freedom. Financial freedom starts with financial literacy. It's very important that you start teaching yourself some of these things, which is why I'm saying you need to be active also when it comes to investing. And in as much as you can have other investments somewhere, but they should also be an investment where you are buying shares yourself, you are investing yourself, and you are teaching yourself this. It's very important. But anyways, I don't want to make this video too long. That is all from me. I'll see you on the next one, and God bless you all.